Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. And this is the show where we are talking about Sex in the City. And we are into season 5. I can hardly believe it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, truly.
Yes. And I'm Margaret Grace Wagner. Jax is here.
Hello.
Yes. We only have one more season left to start.
It's bonkers. I mean, the fact that we are just flying through this entire series, and I'm having so much fun doing it with you, Rachel. Thanks again for asking me. This has been a blast.
I am so grateful to you, and I'm grateful to the listeners for being open to something more mature content. It's just been a great experience for me as well. So these are some fun episodes. I think it started season 5 on a pretty good note. And this one's kind of fun. This first one anchors the way because we get a little cameo in here from one of our Hallmark friends. But in this episode, we
acting
have
very non-Hallmark like.
Yes, that's the very. This is Fleet Week is here. Have you ever heard of this happening? Is this still a thing in New York?
It's definitely still a thing. And I remember moving to New York and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to see all these handsome sailors. And it's not that they're not handsome. They're just very, very young. Like I'm talking 21, 22. Right. So it's not like you watch Sex in the City and to me, it looks like these sailors are sort of, between the ages of, 25 and maybe 75. And the sailors that I've seen have been like early 20s.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I love a man in uniform and they look handsome as all get out and I appreciate their service, but I was never wanting to make out with them.
Yeah. Well, we do have this episode starts out with Carrie going to Paris, and it's the Paris Theater, which is still a thing. It's still in New York City. It survived. It's at least from everything I can see online, it seemed to survive the pandemic, so that's good. And it's an art house theater. Have you ever heard of this theater?
Yes, I've never been, but I've passed it when I'm walking. Yeah, and I think it looks wonderful. I should just go.
Yeah. Yeah, you should go do a little field trip. Report back.
What I relate to in Carrie in this episode is like, I love taking myself on New York solo dates. Like I just love doing things in New York by myself. I just think it's so fun and fulfilling.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't really understand what Charlotte is talking about when she says you went on date night. What is date night? Is that like a specified day of the week?
I was confused about that too. What I'm guessing is that like Saturday night is date night. And that's when everyone goes on their dates. I don't know.
That seemed to be her big hang up was you went on date night. I'm like, what is date night? Is date night Friday night? Is date night Saturday night? Like, it's so weird. And nobody cares about other people at the movie theater. Like nobody cares. No one is looking at anybody else at the movie theater unless you're being actively annoying. Nobody cares. So just go to the movies if you want to go to the movies. Don't wait for you to have a companion to live your life.
100% agree. And I mean, I think that I'm trying to think of a place where people would actually stare at you for being alone. And I just genuinely can't think of one.
The only place I can think of is maybe at a wedding when you're at sort of the single people table and that I'm sure there's other things that are like super coupley. We've talked about New Year's Eve. That one's high on the list. But people are busy with their own lives. They are not thinking about you. They're not thinking about, oh, this person's alone. That's so weird. Nobody thinks that. That would be bizarre. So just go live your life. That's what I think.
Like, come on, Charlotte. Like, and it's funny because she's single now too. So what the heck is she doing with her time?
Yeah, what's she doing on date night? If anybody knows what date night means, like if it's a set day of the week, I don't know. but yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I go to most of the movies and live theater concerts. I go to most of it by myself. I mean, I have my friend Jen, who sometimes comes along if we're allowed a plus one and she's available, then she'll join me, or my friend Stanford will come occasionally. But I would say 2/3 of the time I'm by myself, and it does not matter at all. You're watching the movie. I mean, I can understand why people are a little more awkward about eating alone in a restaurant or whatever, because maybe you feel being alone more. But if you're watching a movie, you can't even talk. Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
I really don't get it either. I mean, I do. I have enjoyed going to plays with people and movies with people, but I would say more often than not, I go alone just because I'm on my own timetable. I want to experience it however I want to experience it. Yeah, I guess as far as eating out, I do that by myself too, but I've never done it in a very fancy restaurant. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking, like, would I do that? Not no, but also I just don't know. I would only really go to a really fancy restaurant if someone that I cared about wanted to go.
Yeah. Yeah. The only one I can think of is there's this place in Salt Lake that I love called the Copper Onion. And I used to go there all the time. I haven't been for a little while, but they have the best food. And they have like a very long bar where you can watch the chefs doing their cooking and everything. And so if I go in there, that's where I usually like to sit, because I don't feel as like isolated, I guess. And I mean, they have such amazing service. The food is absolutely delicious. If you ever come, I'll take you. But that's the, I guess, the fanciest place I've been to alone. I did do a special, what do they call, like a chef's table dinner once a couple of years ago, where a restaurant that I loved, it's closed now, but loved, brought in a special guest chef, and they had like this special plating it was $75, which is a lot of money for dinner, but it was really cool and very fancy. And I did do that alone. But I, like, at that point I had known the people running the restaurant well enough that I felt kind of a kinship with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I don't know. I'm just not going to just like stop having an experience or not have this experience because I can't find someone to go with me. That would be lame.
What makes me really happy about seeing Carrie in this mode. This is peak Carrie for me. Like, she's having fun with her friends. She's loving the city, and she's not obsessed with a man. This is how I like my Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah. And I like the fact that it really wasn't even a issue for her.
Nope.
It's not like she's that, should I go to the Paris theater or not? She's just like, hey, I got to go do this. And that's the way we should live our lives. So
yeah, I do think there's something that after her break off of her engagement with Aiden, after big moving away to California, she kind of has this new lease on life where she's valuing her own company, and it's really beautiful to see.
Yeah. So Charlotte claims that you only have two great loves, and previously she had said you only have one great love, but now she's changed it to two. She claims it's from some article. And she says that it's a love that changes you, that shakes you to your core. It's rare. And that evidently Carrie's already had her two great loves. So she's just like, oh, great. I guess and Miranda claims, she says that Steve's a friend, not a core shaker. And I think that you can't see, I still don't like the way they portrayed Miranda in And Just Like That. A lot of it didn't make sense, and I don't like the way that they portrayed Steve, but she is sort of more kind of on him than I remember.
I thought the same thing this episode, that I mean, it's tricky. I think watching back, and you and I talked about this a little, watching back, I like Steve more.
Yeah.
But you are right that Miranda is kind of lukewarm on him a lot of the time.
Yeah. And obviously it's ridiculous. I mean, some people aren't we'll get one love. Some people will have multiple loves. Some people, I mean, you just can't have like a rule like this.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, definitely not.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy.
And me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
But it was pretty funny with Charlotte being so concerned about Brady hearing bad language, and he's like, can't talk. There's no like, what is wrong with Charlotte? It made me laugh. And then and Samantha, I gave you sushi. I knew. That was funny. That was really funny.
So funny and just such a visual.
Yeah. It was good. That was a good Samantha moment, I thought.
It was great.
Very funny. She's upset about Richard. More of the same. And we get Fleet Week. And it's cute, sweet American soldiers looking for fun.
They sure are.
The one thing I didn't understand in this scene is, why doesn't Miranda have a stroller? She's lugging around that car seat thing.
Yeah, I have no idea
Yeah,
why she does it. I guess she's still getting used to momming.
because that kind of car seat, it clips into the stroller.
You think it would be? Yeah, I don't get why.
Like you have the unit for the car and you clip it in, and then you also have the stroller and you clip it in, yeah, you're gonna blow out your back lugging around that car seat like that.
Yeah. And just plopping them on the sidewalk.
Yeah. But Miranda does have a lot of help in other ways. She's got Steve there all the time. She's got Magda there, and she also has a baby nurse.
It takes a village.
It takes a village. Yeah. Yes. Which is, I think, realistic. Somebody that's a lawyer like she is would probably have a lot of help.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not your typical single mom situation. But yeah, Steve is so great in these scenes. I just loved him so much. He's trying to do the right thing. And
so hard.
Yeah. Then we have Samantha meets Richard for sushi, and she throws a martini on him, which was a fun moment. Yeah,
that was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all had that moment where we wanted to do that to not necessarily like someone who you were romantic with, but that's a great cinematic moment to have.
Yeah. I mean, I think, haven't we all wanted to do that at least once in our
lives?
I mean, I know certainly never have, but
thought about doing it.
So what's interesting about Miranda here is that she is really trying to be a good friend and still, raise an infant. And the thing about that is I think that when you're single, you say, oh, I'm not going to be that kind of mom. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the one that's never able to listen to my friends and their problems and whatever. But you have to realize that there's different seasons of life. And this like very intense newborn season does not last forever. Yeah. And so, yeah, maybe your friends have to be on a back burner for a couple of months, even maybe a year. But if they're good friends, they'll understand and they'll hang in there with you. But it's going to be overwhelming, and you almost, I think, cause yourself to have more stress than needed by having these expectations that maybe aren't that realistic.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that your friend, they can come and be there for you in that season, just like you'll be with them through a divorce or loss of family members or career woes or whatever it is, there's an ebb and flow to all relationships. So I think that, yeah, you're right. She's putting unrealistic expectations on herself.
Yeah. And we as women and men need to just be comfortable with breastfeeding. It's just part of life. It's a natural process. And you're feeding your baby. It's fine.
It makes me so upset when people aren't, because it also really says something about the way that we as a society sexualize things that aren't sexual.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to, I think it's great to have an active and healthy sex life, but there's nothing sexual about feeding a baby, and nothing wrong with pulling out your boob to feed your baby.
Right.
So
that's literally what it's made for.
Yeah. So let's not make it weird. Or make anyone feel bad or feel like they have to hide it.
Yeah. And I do kind of like that Miranda is just very comfortable. Yeah. She doesn't even really think about it.
Yeah. She's like, gotta feed this baby.
I'm like, Carrie, you need to grow up.
I know.
And deal with this.
So she is a 36-year-old woman. Haven't you ever seen any of your friends or like even acquaintance? And we know that, that Miranda's the first one out of the core 4 to have a baby, but like, surely a lot of your friends have had children.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So Charlotte goes to a movie with Anthony. Anthony thinks that she should go out with Sailor. So Charlotte considers that. And Anthony does seem like he would be a pretty good hang.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm-hmm. And Samantha's putting up cheater flyers all over.
When that cop comes up to her and is about to like arrest her, or not arrest her, but like tell her to take it down, maybe give her a fine. And Samantha tells the female cop what Richard did. She's like, keep going. It's all right. I'm like, yep, that's right. Women looking out for women there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did like their party outfits. You have Charlotte in the kind of black, a black dress with a top, a cover up on top. And then Carrie with a black dress with a V-neck. And then Samantha with a blue sparkly dress with a big necklace and a white suit coat. I thought they looked all really good. And then when Carrie gets caught in the rain, she tries to go to the Guggenheim, but it's closed. And she gets caught in the rain, and she's wearing a rainbow skirt that's different than the rainbow skirt from last time. But I still loved it. I thought it was so cute with a pink top and a orange jacket. It was really cute outfit.
Adorable. And I thought that this was such a New York thing, where it starts off with her talking about like all the wonderful things you can do in New York, and then all the things that also go wrong in New York too. It's like, it's the magic and the highs and the lows. And I thought it was a really fun episode in that regard. Yeah.
This episode almost had like an old school Woody Allen feel to me about it, like an Annie Hall almost feel about it, the way that they were kind of talking about things, and yeah, the whole scene in the rain where the guy just seems completely clueless to whatever's happening. I thought it was kind of funny. This guy, I don't know if he's married or what's happening, because he's just not getting the flirting vibe at all. It was funny.
He's looking at her like she's completely bonkers.
Yeah. And then she goes to the deli, and the manager is kind of mean. And then this woman putting lithium in her ice cream. I have never heard of that. Have you?
No. I like the way, what if I was like, yeah, I do it all the time. No, I'm kidding. No. I have never heard of that. Something that was fun about that scene is I do feel like something that I have had happen is that I have met some really eccentric, fun, older New York women. But they were not putting lithium in their ice cream that I know of.
Yeah. I mean, that's one I have never heard of that. I mean, and everything I can see on online, it's all about Sex and the City. So
really? Okay.
this is something that they invented. I would think it would taste really bad. Metallic, gross. I don't know. What a weird idea that she likes to sprinkle it on her. She takes the pills, she crushes them, sprinkles it on her ice cream. And, but I do think this actress crushes it. She's really funny.
Completely. And I think after having this romantic day or this romantic time that Carrie is having with New York City and with being okay with being single, it's funny that she's looking at what she thinks could be a glimpse into her future now and being like, but this doesn't look so great.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I see anything online about putting in lithium, and it's all just Sex and the City. So
I like that it's all completely like.
I guess the pills are sometimes given for bipolar disorder, is what I'm seeing, and so.
You think you just take them regular though?
And I know some pills you shouldn't crush, that it actually like changes things, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess follow the directions on your prescription, please.
we do not recommend putting lithium on your ice cream.
No, it doesn't sound good either. It just sounds gross. But she says, I broke up with Morty in 82 and thought something better would come along. It never happened. I forget who says that. I think it might be Carrie, who says New York and I had a dismissive, abusive relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So they get in a cab with the soldiers. Charlotte thinks, oh, I'm going to be with a soldier or sailor. and then you have this whole scene with Miranda where Brady loses his because sometimes kids have a remaining part of the umbilical cord on them, and it's harmless. You just put a little like, I think it's rubbing alcohol or something like that on it, and make sure it doesn't get infected, and it's fine. Well, anyway, it falls off, which it does, and the cat eats it. And she's just like horrified.
I understand why that would be freaky. Well, I was watching this, Alex, my fiance, popped in and he was like, I'm sorry, baby's belly buttons fall off? I was like, yeah. And I think it would be freaky though if a cat got at it. I'm so worried about my little cat baby getting into anything that I can see how that would be jarring, and that Miranda has all the big stuff figured out that she can plan for, but the little things that you can't foresee is what is kind of
well, and that's why it was cute when she said that Steve was there when she was shaken to the core. That was cute because you got that core language coming back, and yeah, he's there at the important moments, like the umbilical cord moment.
Yeah, and I think that is what I'm wondering what we are going to see in Just Like That, because relationships ebb and flow so much, and you value different things at different times in your life, and new relationship energy is really exciting, and Miranda's having that, and Just Like That with Che, but also the comfortability and love and security that she's had with Steve over all these years. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Charlotte finds an officer who isn't a gentleman, and it's Mark Declan. Our friend, Mark Declan, who we've interviewed on Hallmarkie's podcast. I don't know if you got to interview him on Bubbly Sesh.
Once, but it was a while ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's great. Super nice person, very talented, done a bunch of Hallmark stuff. Yeah, who knew he was in Sex and the City? It was very exciting.
I didn't remember him being on there.
I don't either.
Yeah, this was a great. He was so flirty with Charlotte.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm great with Miranda whipping her boobs out to feed her baby.
Yeah.
I'm also okay with Charlotte taking her boob out if that's what she wants, but I will say that was jarring.
It was surprising. And then it was just really funny because Carrie was just like, well, You might as well show me yours because I've seen Miranda's and Charlotte's today. It's been a busy day for her.
Carrie walks up and Charlotte's boob is out. I think she's like, I'm sorry, what?
It was very funny. But Samantha can only think of Richard. So she's struggling. And then Carrie dances with Sailor Louise. And that was, or Carrie dances with Sailor Lewis. And that was nice. And she says, New York may just be my true love.
Oh my gosh. This is one of my favorite endings when she says, I won't say the word on the podcast, but when she says like, if we, the one great love, New York may just be mine, and I can't have anybody talking beep on my boyfriend. And I have said this to so many people when they say that stuff about New York. I'm like, look, I can say it because that's my boyfriend. But no, do not be talking smack on my city.
Yeah. So this was a pretty good episode, I would say. What do you think? Like an 8.5?
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have Unoriginal Sin. It's the next episode. And in this one, Steve asks if they can have Brady be baptized. And his pitch to Miranda is basically like, if it doesn't mean anything to you, it doesn't mean anything. And it's just harmless, I guess, is kind of his attitude. And it'll make my mom happy. And why not? And I think that there's some value in that, in having like tradition and welcoming a child, even if you're not like super invested in the religious observation, or the ceremony, because it's not like it's making a like commitment to that faith, or like some other kinds of baptism I think are more serious than this would be.
Yeah, I think that especially because it's not like Miranda has another religious tradition that she wants to raise Bradley in.
Yeah.
Or Brady. So my friend has he's not a baby anymore, but a kid named Bradley. So that's where my head is. Hi, Christy. I completely understand why Steve does want to get Brady baptized.
Yeah. And he seems like a pretty traditional person in a lot of ways. So I can understand that. And it was pretty funny with Miranda meeting with the priest, and cut out this line and this line and this line and this line. I'm like, oh, okay, wow. I didn't know that they were that flexible in the Catholic Church, but evidently, according to this show, they are. I don't know.
I thought it was funny because they compare the Catholic Church to like a 36-year-old single woman in New York City being like, well, we'll take what we can get. And, I was raised Catholic, and I can attest to the fact that, there's some flexibility there with some things.
Yeah. So Samantha admits that she doesn't have time to read Carrie's column. And this is true because my family, I create a lot of content, so I understand that, but my mom's maybe listened to like 2 of my episodes. She's listened to the episodes that my dad was on. I think that's about it. Which is fine. Like they're supportive in lots of other ways. It's fine. But I just know most of my family friends don't listen to the podcast, which is fine.
I think it's really interesting about what you're saying. That's also true for me. And I think that, my family has listened. I think some of my friends have listened, but the majority of people that like listen to, say, you or me talk, or when we're, on this show and other stuff that we do, it's mostly people that we've either like met through this community or people we don't know, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. My friend Jen, who I go to the movies with, she listens to Hallmark's podcast fairly frequently, and occasionally some of the other stuff I do. And then my niece reads my reviews pretty regularly, probably the most out of the family, or she used to. I don't know if she still does, but and then my Aunt Kate is probably the most supportive of anybody in the family, which I really appreciate. Thank you, Aunt Kate. But yeah, I mean, it's just not their thing. And occasionally when I talk to authors, I'll let my sister know, because she's an author. So I'll say, hey, you know, and I think she listens to him, maybe, I don't know. But it's just, I know what Carrie's feeling with this right now, because because I think that most creators experience this, where the people in your life don't listen or read your work, which is again fine. But
it makes sense that Samantha out of all of them would be the one that doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and she also probably would disagree with a lot of things Carrie says in her columns. So she just wants to, because her views on dating are very different than Carrie.
Very.
So it's probably best to just stay away. Yeah. And so then, yeah, Steve says, if you don't believe it's water on the kid's head, no big deal. So Richard gives Samantha a Canary diamond ring.
The big diamond.
Yeah. So he's making the commitment. He's sorry he got scared, but Samantha is still really struggling with this. And Carrie has not been answering her phone for the messages with Gabe, her editor. And she runs into him when they are looking for hot men. Her and Charlotte, it's the 1-100 game. It says you watch men coming your direction and you see how many of the 100 you'd sleep with.
I can't believe Carrie is like goose egg on the number of men she would sleep with, and Charlotte's racking up quite a few.
Yeah, evidently. I mean, I can understand Carrie there, because I mean, I'm somebody that I don't know, like I feel like I kind of need to get to know the personality before I'm like super attracted to a person, with exceptions. But I probably like know
real hotties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I've been attracted to so many different types of people that it's hard for me to see someone on the street and be like, oh yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
So the editor comes by and says that I've been trying to reach you because there are publishers interested in turning your column into a book. And I have to say, almost every single blog that I've ever read that got turned into a book, I've actively hated. So it's not, there's just something about that relaxed style of blogging, which is basically what Carrie does in these columns, that compiled together and one after another is just so insufferable. I can't deal with it. And you know, something like, I hated Julie and Julia. I thought I like the movie, and Amy Adams is better as Julie. But I hated her in that book. I just thought she was insufferable and annoying. And there's been some others I can't think off the top of my head, but I haven't, in general, I do not think that works to take a blog and turn it into a book. I mean, I guess you can have things like Dave Barry, like his kind of op-ed pieces that they sort of work pretty well. But I don't know, I just need those in sort of smaller amounts, because the snark after a while just gets to me. And so I think I would not enjoy Carrie's book, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think Carrie's a little bit like, what is the purpose of this? Because all the columns are just out there and you're just basically framing them with an intro and like a closing.
I mean, this does seem very 2002 to me, though.
Yeah, that's spot on. Like a collection of essays in that way. And I do like this scene because I love Molly Shannon, I love Amy Sedaris, so that was a lot.
Yeah, that was brilliant casting. I hope we see them again this season. I can't remember if we do, but
either.
I like them both. Really
And they're
good.
so funny together.
Yeah. And she basically just has to pick her favorite columns, write an introduction, and figure out what's the message. And she says, well, maybe it's not advisable to be optimistic after the age of 30. That's the message.
That's it. That's the message.
So then we have we have Miranda meeting Steve's mom, who was the sweetest. I loved his mom.
There was something about their first interaction that, even though I know Miranda was kind of like, what is happening? I did see Miranda be disarmed by it almost. And then there was just something that was really sweet about it. And how she just had the little picture of Brady, and oh my goodness. And she's just so down to earth, and the way she looks at Miranda, and she's like, you're so fancy. I don't know. I got really emotional.
It was so sweet. She was just seemed like the nicest lady. And it's got to be hard when you get married or in a committed relationship, and all of a sudden you have this whole group of people who are now your family, but you're just getting to know them, but you're supposed to kind of treat them like family. I think that would be challenging.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like culturally, Miranda and Steve's family are very different.
Yeah. But she just seemed like the sweetest lady. So I really appreciated that. So we have Miranda asking Carrie to be Brady's godmother, and then they ask Steve's brother, right, to be the godfather.
Yeah, he had a lot going on.
But Charlotte is upset about it, and that Carrie's not taking being the godmother seriously enough. And I mean, it's really up to Miranda if Carrie's not taking it, to decide that, if she's not taking it seriously enough. I don't know. Charlotte can just be, she just wants everything to be the way that she wants it. She has a hard time kind of letting go.
Yeah. I think that the only thing that I sort of related to, but then I'm going to almost simultaneously take this back, but stick with me here.
Mm-hmm.
When Charlotte said the thing about how something should be sacred, I can imagine that if you are a very religious person and this baptism is a sacred thing to you, to see someone sort of not taking it seriously, or what you perceive as making like a mockery out of it, I can see how that would be hurtful. But knowing what we know about Charlotte, which is just that she likes everything a certain way, and then later on that she does, which I think is great, that she converts to Judaism for Harry, but obviously she's not that attached to her own religion if she's willing to do that. So I guess I have conflicting feelings about this.
Well, they end up going to this motivational speaker, and and again, Charlotte's kind of upset with Carrie. But there was a sweet moment, which is, I believe in the good of Charlotte. That was a nice moment. And I don't know if I've ever told you, but my aunt is like a motivational guru, motivational speaker.
I did not know this.
My aunt, her name is Carol Tuttle, and she has this whole system called Dressing Your Truth, where she basically kind of types your energy, is what she calls it. And then there's like particular colors and particular whatever that go along with your energy. Pretty sure you would be a type 1, I think. In her system.
Type for you. I want to do
I'm
this.
a 4. And we've actually had my cousin Anne, who works with her. We've had her on the podcast a couple times typing the different Hallmark people. And so those are kind of fun episodes, and it's perfectly fun and I enjoy it. But yeah, it's interesting at these, kind of motivational speakers. And sometimes they can be helpful, I think. And sometimes, I don't know, it can just be a lot about them.
Yes. Because I think that like a lot of times it is this sort of like leader, they want the attention, they're trying to make money, they want, like, they are like a guru. watching Charlotte stand up and vulnerably saying, I'm doing my affirmations, like, what's happening. And just that performance was, I just thought, so powerful and heartbreaking.
Yeah. It was good. I think that Charlotte just needs to learn to let go and not need to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd be a lot happier in her life if she lives by so many rules. I mean, she can't even go to the movies. She can't even, there's so many things that she can't do. And if she just let a few things go, I think she'd be a lot happier. But so could so many of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like their outfits in this whole scene. She's wearing a like a halter top, kind of 70s looking. Charlotte wearing pink dress, and then Carrie's wearing this brown little dress that looked very cute, I thought, with flowers.
Yeah, they were looking really adorable.
Yeah, I don't love Carrie's hair in this season. It's very kind of triangle-y. And I don't know, just not my favorite. But
you know what's interesting? It's definitely not my favorite hairdo if we're just looking at it like aesthetically, because I love every other hairdo she has. But I like Carrie so much in season 5 that like the hair is growing on me because I like who she is so much more. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Charlotte says that I'm afraid he took away my ability to believe. With Trey, and Carrie says that Carrie defends Charlotte to this Dr. Grayson, and Carrie says she's getting cynical, and that Charlotte's gunning for the job, and she's probably better at it for the Godmother.
Bless her heart.
Yeah, and I do say the I haven't been to that many christenings. We have baby blessings in my faith. But the fact that Brady did not cry at all is like a miracle, because every christening / baby blessing I have ever been to, the baby is just shrieking.
They cried. Yeah. I cried. They cried.
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
Everybody cried.
I'm like, how did they do that with the baby? And so then Carrie dedicates her book to Charlotte, who always believes in love. That was very sweet.
Oh, that got me, Rachel. That got me right in the feels. I cried. I was like, oh
yeah,
my goodness. And I'm sure that meant so much to Charlotte. And she got a huge part of her identity back, which is that optimism and that hope.
Yeah. So I would give this episode like a 7.5, I think. Okay.
Yeah, I like this a little bit less than the first one we reviewed, but yeah, I still thought it was really solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So then we have episode 3, and I forgot to write down the name of this one. So this one is Luck Be an Old Lady is the name
Luck
of
Be an
that.
Old Lady. Such a perfect title for an Atlantic City episode.
Yes.
Charlotte's second 35th birthday.
But they start out there at the eating lunch, and because Carrie has gotten stood up, and so she's frustrated. And why is she wearing an Afghan? Like, that's what I wondered. Like, what is this sweater that she has on?
Rachel needs an answer, people. Why?
It looks like a Grandma Squares quilt.
Yep. Sure does. Sure does.
Dress. I'm like, what? But Charlotte says you've got to keep trying. You will not end up as an old maid. And Miranda says, why do we get stuck with old maid and spinster and men are bachelors and playboys? It's very true.
Oh my goodness. Yes. What? Like it's just such a double standard.
Yeah. I mean, I think unfortunately it just comes down to biology because men don't have any kind of ticking clock like women have as far as if they want to have family or not, which is
yes, like when Meg Ryan and when Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
Charlie Chaplin had babies.
yeah, I'm gonna be 40 in 8 years. It's there. I love that. It's so good.
Oh, she's the best.
So Charlotte decides that she's turning 36. She says that she's going to be 35 in perpetuity forever. And I used to think that was so lame. You know, how even my beloved Fran Drescher and the Nanny, how she's like 29 forever. Yeah. I used to think that was pretty lame, but I have to say I kind of understand it more now. I mean, I'm 41 and I feel the same as I did at 21. Like, I mean, if anything, I'm probably in better shape now than I was then. I don't know. I feel the same. And so I think when you're younger, you think, oh, it's going to be so different, but no, I think most of us, we feel the same. And so it's weird to all of a sudden be like, I can't believe I'm this old because I feel the same as I did when I was young.
Yeah. I think it's so bizarre. I remember being really little, like 5, 6, and thinking like, oh, when I'm big, when I'm grown up, like, what is it going to be like? And you are you. Like, it's just like, it's not this, and you never really feel like you achieve some like state of like perfect personhood.
Yeah, I wish I had thought to find it, but I was reading that post the other day about, it was from little kids talking about what it's like to turn 30. And
I've seen this. It's so good.
It was so funny. They were all talking about how like you need walkers and you need like all this stuff. Like it's hard to walk uphill and you need help. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I'm 40. I mean, walking uphill is it's not easy, but I at least have avoided the walker at this point.
They have us 1 foot in the grave. So.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So Charlotte claims men are more interested in 35, which you hope is not true, but it feels true.
I think that, yeah, it's so interesting with ages that we put all these things on them that it's like when you get to know someone, it doesn't matter at all. Mm-hmm. So I understand why she doesn't want to lead with, I think a lot of people do that for online dating too. You shave off a few years. When I was online dating, I was doing that. But then I would be honest, like on the first date, but I was like just wanting to get in the search bar.
Right. Yeah.
For, the age that I wanted, because I didn't want to date someone that much older than me. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure that I was showing up in those searches.
Yeah. I was just talking to a friend about this, that I'm like, you think that I'm so successful in making friends, like the co-hosts on this podcast, like almost all the forms of social media I'm like pretty good at, but online dating I just kind of suck at. I can't figure it out. I can't seem to like make the connection or have, I don't know. I'm really bad at it. So if y'all have any tips, please.
I'm happy we should sit down when we're in California together and go over stuff, because I love doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think that so many people are very intimidated by online dating, or they just don't feel like they're good at it. But I think it's just one of those things that like I was very okay with putting myself out there and really, really okay with getting rejected and being like, let's just keep doing it. Let's just keep doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I could definitely use the tips. So we'll have to do that.
But we definitely
But they're all going to Atlantic City, and they evidently Atlantic City is the capital of stretchy pants.
sure
That was
is.
funny. And the baby nurse has left, and so Miranda's feeling more stress. And Magda's there looking at pictures of Brady all over. They're like, why do you have all these pictures on your fridge? It's just Magda. That's funny. And they do have Miranda looking pretty frumpy, I have to say, in this episode, but it's convincing of kind of her growth as a character. I think this experience has made her a better person through this whole of having a baby.
Yeah, I totally agree. And she really is growing into who she is and is becoming, but also like there's still remnants of old Miranda there, which is great too.
And then, so Steve's supposed to be taking care of Brady, and he shows up at the door and he's like, I don't know if I can do this. And it was so cute. And I have to say, I do hate it when men refer to themselves as babysitting or their own children. You're not babysitting, you're parenting. You're taking care of your child.
100%. And when Steve is like, I can't do this, I'm like, well, she can't do it either. Like, she's made her plans. So buck up, buddy. You're the one who wanted to have a kid in the first place.
Right, that's true. But it was a really sweet moment, though, because it is overwhelming when you're taking care of a kid. Like it's overwhelming.
So free. Like, it seemed so genuine. Like, I liked that it wasn't just like, hey, I got something fun to do this weekend. You saw, I mean, it was so well played too. It was sheer fear and panic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. like I try not to kill him Monday through Friday. You try not to kill him this weekend.
Yeah. And Magda says, oh, I will help. And Miranda says, oh, that's not your job. But basically Carrie's like, throw some money at it. We need to have a break, which is true too. Like, the moms, if you can do it, I mean, it's hard when the babies are breastfeeding, because then you got to pump, and I mean, that's tough. But I think even if it's not a whole weekend, if you can get a moment where you go out to lunch or something as a break, I think it's really helpful for new moms, it seems like to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So it ends up being that Charlotte is on the flight with Samantha and Richard, which would definitely be awkward. Yeah.
Yeah. And then especially when Charlotte thinks that present is for her from Samantha, and it's from Richard to Samantha, and it is a pearl thong.
Yeah. That sounds very uncomfortable to me. But Charlotte has evidently taken up knitting. So that works. And did you see the latest promo for Countdown to Christmas?
No.
With all the knitting?
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, so it starts out with it shows like 4 or 5 different people knitting, and they're like what is it they say, that get ready for a sweater life or something like that. Sweater life. And then there's Countdown to Christmas, and I'm like, I didn't know that knitting was so like part of Countdown to Christmas.
Me either. And this sweater life, this is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of funny. Dan was saying the other day, and we did screen drafts. He was saying they're like outright.
I'm so excited to watch.
You'll be surprised. Our list, I think everybody will be very surprised. But he was saying how they're outright admitting that people do other stuff while they watch Hallmark movies, which is very true. That's a good point.
Own it. We do our laundry. We do what we got to do.
One thing I am surprised, when they get to the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, I'm surprised that they didn't have a Trump cameo in this episode, because didn't he own it? Or I mean, Atlantic City was like his thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised too that he didn't pop up.
Yeah. I would have expected. But Carrie, she missed the cigarette smoke. And it is interesting. That is something that Aiden gave her, is that she finally was able to, seems like, quit smoking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. And we also find out that the New Yorker is Miranda's porn.
I love that.
And they end up taking the Greyhound, basically. And it's an old lady bus to Atlantic City, Miranda and Carrie. And I've only taken Greyhound one time. I went to Las Vegas on the Greyhound, and it was great. I had a great experience. It was really clean and comfortable. And I don't know, like, you hear all these horror stories, but I thought it was great. I would do it again.
I like Greyhound. Bolt and Mega are a little bit.
Oh, I've never heard of those.
Oh, they're cheaper. They're a lot cheaper. And I will say, you can feel that.
Yeah, you can feel that. So they have their casino clothes, and Charlotte is has a white collared shirt and a black skirt, and Samantha is in a white shimmery pantsuit ensemble, and Carrie has black pants, a belt, and then kind of a flowy silver top.
I think Carrie looks so sexy in this.
Yeah, she did.
This is one of my all-time favorite Carrie tops that she wears in the whole series.
Yeah,
I just think she looks so beautiful.
Yeah, she looked really good and perfect for Atlantic City.
Yes.
Of what you think. And then, yeah, Miranda, like, she's kind of looking a little frumpy, but understandable. She has got the black pants and then a cranberry colored cardigan set. Yeah. So Carrie gets the 1K chip in the gambling, and she's trying to decide kind of what to do. They say she's the lucky blonde at a certain point. And Charlotte goes to sleep with a 1K chip on her shoulder. She's annoyed with Carrie.
Yeah, and I felt bad about this because Carrie is the one who's trying to make Charlotte's birthday so special.
Right.
And Samantha ditched out early to go make sure Richard's not cheating on her. Miranda went to bed, which is understandable. But yeah, Carrie's the one who's trying to be Charlotte's hype girl. And yeah. I felt bad that Charlotte wasn't able to recognize that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then Charlotte wears this really sexy dress, pink dress, and her hair's all fluffed out and everything like that. What do you think of that?
Okay, so I know that it's supposed to be this sort of like kind of trashy Atlantic City outfit that she buys there. But again, much like Carrie's Atlantic City top, I thought Charlotte looked so sexy.
Yeah.
Her hair looked beautiful. Her makeup looked beautiful. She looked gorgeous in that dress. And she was just a babe. She reminded me, it was like a Sandy in Grease kind of a reveal, you know, at the end when Sandy's in the tight pants. And
yeah. That's a good comparison.
I thought she looked great. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought she looked really good too. She, especially when she was sort of owning it and looked confident. I remember Tim Gunn, he always would say on Project Runway, he says, as long as you own it, then if you don't own it. And I also liked Carrie's dress. She's at that point, she's wearing a black dress with it's like a belt, a blue belt with a flower. I thought it was pretty. And Samantha's also wearing a black dress in that. And so she ends up, Charlotte says she wants it all in addition to her friends. She wants the guy and her friends. And then Samantha, she goes up the 11 floors, which I can't remember why she didn't just go up the elevator.
I don't either. I didn't remember it the first time I watched it. I didn't get it the first time I watched it, even on a rewatch. I was like, all right. Is it broken? Something must have happened, or she thought it'd be faster or something.
Yeah. And basically Samantha just cannot get over this dalliance that Richard had. She just can't deal with it. And she says, I love you too, Richard, but I love me more. She gives back the ring. And it is kind of surprising that somebody who has been in so many fairly illicit relationships I mean, she slept with married men many times. She's done things like that many times, but that she would have such a hard time forgiving Richard.
I agree. And I think that especially just like you're saying, because of how we know she feels about sex. Like Samantha is someone that we know can have sex without loving someone. And I think if you are someone who sex is very sacred to you, I can see that in your mind, you wouldn't be able to get over your partner doing that because you're like, well, that means that they don't love me. But Samantha actually knows that's not true even for her. So I don't know, but I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
After she leaves and she sees the woman walking towards the like through the room. Yes. Did you get the feeling that he was actually going to hook up with her? Like there was some line that I was confused about and I was like, wait, huh?
You know, she definitely thinks that he is, I think, but whether, I mean, to me, it would seem a little bit hard to believe that somebody like that would, I think that I don't know what you'd call her role. But she probably is very, very flirty, but I would find it hard to believe that. I would think that would be detrimental to her job.
Yeah.
If she were to have relations with guests at the hotel that quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I don't know, but that was you definitely felt like Samantha felt that.
Yeah.
So then we have Carrie. She goes outside and she gets some taffy because it's a thing in Atlantic City, and she sees a cute couple there, which was really nice. And he says maybe there's some things worth gambling on, and so she gambles the chip and loses, and then they because the house always wins, as we know. And then cute scene with them all taking the bus home and being together. That was fun.
I love these girls together so much. I'm really enjoying the top of season 5. I just think it's great to see them. The show really now has found so much more, I think, of the true heart of why so many people love it, when it really is about the 4 women and their relationships with each other.
Yeah. So I think this is a very strong episode. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, what would you give it?
I would give it an 8.5 or a 9. I love this one. It's just so iconic to me too. And I love an episode of a TV show where we go on a little field trip.
Yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, I would give this one a 9. I think this one's really strong for all of the girls.
Yeah.
So there we go. Let us know what you think of these 3 episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C. Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And make sure you're following us at City Girls Pod on Twitter. I try to share whenever I see anything Sex and City related on there. And so definitely make sure that you check that out. And also follow the Hallmarkies Podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast. All of our social media, you can find me at Rachel's Reviews. All of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And if you are listening to us on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews 5 stars. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is a lot of fun, has great opportunities. And so definitely please take a look at that. And check out the merch store where we have City Girls Pod merch and lots of other fun stuff. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.